All right, there's one thing everybody can agree on. The LS truck intake, it's freaking hideous. I mean, they covered it and put a cap on it. It looks like a, but shave these things down and at least they get the not so ugly look. Question is, I got dirt on my hands. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Yucky. A little around the edge. I did pressure wash this, but evidently it didn't work out so great. Whatever. So I've seen everybody and the majority of people are using the Sawzall to cut these, and I'm thinking, all right, what works best? Let's look at some things. I've got a few options here. One, reciprocating body saw. Now I'm kind of curious if, I can get in there and maybe it's a little more precise. I haven't seen this one yet, but here, I don't know why that wouldn't be one of the best tools for it, but hey, let's try it. Now, of course, your 36 grit, just a good sandpaper on a 4.5 inch grinder. One on a diamond bit. I don't know, I mean, we'll see how they cut. I know my expectation of what's gonna happen. What do you think? And there's always the old cutoff wheel, which, oh, plugged in. I like to leave my shit laying around plugged in. The big question now is I want to get all this stuff off of here the safest way possible. Smooth this out like so many have done before me. Nice and smooth. Get some slick paint on it. Get the engine ready. Get it all cleaned up. Get it painted and get it ready to go back in the frame. So whenever I get the cab ready to sit back down, I can set it down and we can start painting the interior. Right now, I'm gonna get all the front, the firewall, and underneath painted, set it back on, get it mounted solid, then we'll work on the interior. But first things first, things I want to talk about. All right, a lot of people leave these stands, which I've been kind of curious why they're for. I've got a drive-by wire, I don't need it. They're gone. I'm really not sure why these exist other than, well, they need vacuum ports from time to time. I don't really get it. Whatever. I want to put the vacuum ports back here in the back. Real carefully, I don't need this port. I think what I can do is take the map sensor and I'll move it to here, and I'll take these two vacuum ports, see if I need to cut this webbing off. If I do, I will, and I'll just weld them right into this. Right now, I just want to know what's the best item to cut this stuff off. So, let's try it. Let's get you guys down here where you get to see all the fun. Wow, right in front of your eyes. Are you hypnotized yet? Oh, I'm old, I'm so old. All right, first thing I want to do is this body saw. And I'm not going to cut these. I'm going to try and cut these edges off and then see if we can cut all the way through. But I don't think the saw blade is going to be long enough to cut these bungs off. So I probably should have a full-size Sawzall, but I don't have one, so whatever. And tonight, we're having a Neapolitan stout from Patriarchy Duclaw. Pastriarchy, excuse me, Pastriarchy. Now let's see how this cuts. Well, if I had a slightly longer blade, I bet that'd be awesome, but look at the buildup on that. That's gonna be nasty quick. It's actually welding itself back together, and I'm having to cut it pretty long. Not bad though. So let's see, can I cut this edge off? Not bad. Again, these pieces I kind of want to save because I think I can sand those off flat, and then when it's time to weld this back up, put those right back in and weld them in. Well, the big thing is getting it cut off. All right, body saw, not bad, not bad. So, but we can't get down close. Next question is, what about this? And I'll come over here now, and I'm gonna do that too. I want to take it and I can see some spaces for it. All right. So let's this every chance. All right, let's see. This is really important. I want to make sure I don't damage these, so I want to make sure I get the best one before I cut these 3 things out. I'm trying to save those. So I'll cut this one off. Again, 4.5 inch grinder, cut off wheel. That's exactly what I expected to happen. That did nothing but melt, and for the most part, look at that. Cut good, got it right off, and might actually be the best possible thing for this and this, but I'm not sure it was the best for that. And it's blowing it all over me. Not a big fan. This is one I got high hopes for. Now, one of the things, since I'm doing so much damage as I pull this apart, I'm losing the ability to use some of this. And some of this stuff I need. I'll have to reshape, sand down, and plug the holes. Let's just keep all this stuff I cut off. What I'm really hoping is this one does exactly what I want it to do. Again, like I said, all this stuff's going to be cut off, so let's start right here. Yeah, high hopes for a reason. Look how smooth and close that got. It's the right shape, everything about that seems to be good. Cut some of these other pieces off, right? Yeah, this seems to be the best tool. And I couldn't imagine a Sawzall being other than cumbersome and making a damn mess. This has the precision I think it needs. Right now, I can't see me using anything else. And I think this tool has its place. I don't think it's going to be where I'm using it right now, though. Again, just a good sanding disc. So what I'd have to do with this is basically I'd put it on there and it'll sand it right down, which is okay. So taking this stuff off, I'm not going even nowhere near it, but you can see it takes that right down. And yeah, it throws shit everywhere. And you could quickly eat into that thing. Careful, 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 careful. So out of those tools, very, very simply, the reciprocating saw, by far, is the one to go to. That gets everything close. Then you can take this and, yeah, look at that mess. You're just kind of melting it off with that. And then you'll take your 80 grit or DA or whatever and start to smooth the whole thing out and get it semi-close. Weld it all up. So I've heard zip ties work really good as a filler rod. We'll see. Everybody I've seen has used some type of a soldering iron just to weld these things up. Has anybody tried an epoxy? Like put them together and weld them, but then put an epoxy over the whole thing? Probably leave that open. All right, well, you know what? I know which one I like, which one I'm gonna keep going with. So here we continue. And yeah, it still melts it, but God, look how close that gets. This is your tool, man. I don't know why anybody would use anything else. So, yeah. That, I think, once I cut that down a little bit, I should be able to stick it right in here, determine exactly how I want to do it. I may just end up drilling a hole there and putting it right against it and just weld it, surface weld it to it. Again, I think I'll move my map sensor to your power brake booster hose, which is not used. So you guys probably couldn't see that. Yeah, so again, take my 2 vacuum ports and move back here. I'll have to trim that one down a little better. I've already said this, but I'm not smart enough to. You know, one great thing that I should invest in is a belt sander. Man, I should invest in so many things. But it sucks being broke. No matter how much money you make, you're always broke when you fuck with stuff like this. Alright, so yeah, it'll be something like that. And another one next to it. And that sensor there. And that should be about it. I mean, this, and that. That's all I gotta move. I'm gonna cut that one out without damaging it. Man, that is nice. It's got a chip on it, so I may have to find a new one. Or find a better way to hold it in. But, again, look how close I am. Guys, I don't know why nobody's using this. And I haven't seen anybody use it yet. Pretty quick. Honestly, everything's really close. Except for right here where I used that body saw. As quick as this thing's cutting it, I don't see anything anybody would use. Well, look at that. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So why go to all this work? It's just a little looks, right? So let me get my 80 grit and my sander and see if we can't maybe, how hard that is to sand. Yeah, I don't know if this is the better way. I'm afraid I'm getting a little carried away with that 4.5 inch grinder. So I want to try and slow down a bit. So let's put some 80 grit. See what happens, right? What's the worst that can happen? Oh, well, I know. I can destroy this $20 intake. I think I'll live. You know, a few hours, kind of amazing at times what you get done. Yet, it's also amazing how quickly a few hours goes by. I'm sitting there talking and I know I'm going to edit all this out. 80 grit. Let's see what it's capable of. See it, look at it tearing it up, but it's doing it. And it's actually cutting it pretty quick. That's not bad. So the thing too is the first piece of paper is going to get tore up on all the points and everything, so I've rounded some of those off. Maybe it'll go a little further now. All these up, maybe get in there and clean up a little bit and see what else I can find. Maybe get rid of those standoffs because they kind of seem stupid. That might be something I can, because the standoffs are just kind of there. Do it all, clean it all up, and we'll start the process. But right now, not too bad. I'm digging this. So, better than anything else I found, and I think anybody who's done this would probably agree. This little reciprocating tool is the trick for trimming these off. All right, so don't know if y'all can see it. So I've cut these off. Everything's kind of smooth right now. I mean, this is nice. I've got all the ribbing gone. This is pretty thin right here. So I'm gonna kind of, just kind of get the diamond wheel out. And you can see it's already melted that stuff where I'd screwed with it before. But I want to at least get it there and maybe give it a little V on the outside of all this. So whenever I start making whatever I make to plug this thing up, which I went and bought the plastic welding kit. We'll see how it works out. But I need to get this so it's not so thin. Plus, I'd like to kind of lay that out just a little bit. So when I put something in there, as I start to melt, it fills that void in, and I can kind of really soften everything around it. And then we'll go over the whole thing and smooth it out some more. So let's see. It's nice to have a few little tools. So I thought I could maybe reuse these, and everybody talks about, you know, they use the old pieces to weld this up, but honestly I don't see that being a good option here. I have an old 4.7 intake that I'll be able to cut the pieces out of. Cut one just to trial to make sure it was about the right thickness and everything. So I think I can get on the curve here and trim those around. Just about match the curve so I can get a good weld on them all. And then these 4 up top, wherever. So to me, yeah, it's a little better option than trying to piece that crap together. We'll see. So I've got one whittled down in there. Not quite the same before I cut any more. Actually, I might cut them from a little more curved piece because it's a little flatter than this. But my idea right now is I want to get this half of it welded. I'll take the tape off. We'll push that down in it, and I'll weld the other half. Hopefully we can soften this up and kind of push it in and it'll hold it there. But right now, the old 80 watt iron Harbor Freight gun, I'm gonna see how it does. I don't know if these welding sticks that come with it are better, or if the nylon zip ties, which is what I've heard is better. All right, try this again. So I'm gonna tape this in. I'm gonna try and weld the top half of this good. Take this off, and then we'll have to try and soften it and push it down in there. But I wanna do half right now. Evidently, my plug that I'm using over there was not gonna get hot enough. I think the first thing I wanna do is melt this in real good. That looks pretty good. So I think that's a trick. One is I take it and I can burn in to the edges so they're burnt all the way through to it, and then start softening and filling that thing up. Still pretty warm right now, but that's how it needs to be done, I suppose. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to sand this some, but I think majority of what I'm going to do on the top of this is I'm going to put a layer of some little Bondo or something, just kind of skim coat this whole thing and go over it. I'll get it close, and then, like I said, quick skim coat and long bore it. But guys, that's what I've done there. I think the most important one was as I'm going in, I'm burning in good all the way to the centers on both pieces so they kind of fuse. Then take that filler and really get it good and hot and work it down in there. Next piece. As I was saying before, I had an extra intake and I was able to cut these, and they're all welded in there now. I won't let them completely cool before I do any sanding or anything like that, but that's what it's looking like so far. Still got one hole right here I'll fill in, which is, and then we're going to come back here to the back and we'll do some surgery on this, see if we can't get some vacuum ports in this. But for right now, that stays. We'll sand this off again, just kind of smooth it up a little, and be ready for some mud. I really want to focus though, when it's time, what I did with the vacuum, because that's something that I was not able to find on exactly what anybody did. Saw one guy where he kind of cut these off. I don't know if I need to cut them. I'm able to get down in there and grind them a little bit and just make room, or I may grind off, put one in the center. I'm going to put one here in this vacuum port, and I may put another one. I might be able to put two in here. We'll see. Maybe that's what I'll do, is I'll take and trim that off. But making this intake, these intakes are ugly, and this is helping it. Everything seems to be good and solid. Everything seems to be good and solid on it, so I'm pretty happy with that. And like everybody said, that Harbor Freight welder, which is just a soldering iron with a freaking tip on it, this is not a plastic welder, what I'm used to. Of course, that should be straight out of it, and of course it's going to break. So I'll either see if I can find another one, or like somebody else said, he just started using it right there on the tip. That, or maybe what I'll do is turn down a piece of brass and just make a flat, blunt tip at the end of it. But for right now, that's going to cool off, and I guess I'm going to go make dinner. So it's all welded up, somewhat sanded, pretty smooth. A nice skim coat, a little bit of mud on this, and then sand it down and start looking at what it's going to take to clean it all up for final paint. But I mean, there's some waviness about it, so me mix up. First thing is spray a little spray clean, get those fingerprints off, make sure everything's good. Alright, tonight, a little cliff chopper, because local beers matter. Alright. Alright, won't take a whole lot. Again, mostly just a skim coat. But I'm going to mix a bit up. Oh my goodness, would you look at that? When you buy this Everclear, look at that neat little Look at that. Isn't that cute? Holy crap. That is... I gotta open that. I'm sure this is useful somewhere. Oh man, it's even got little like aluminum reinforcement pieces, and I don't know what. Does it come with? Oh my! Visual mixing guide. Hey, you know what? If you've never done it, that's probably a pretty cool thing. All right. Let's get something to open this baby up. Here's one of the problems with no car keys. Dang, I'm old school and I got some house keys. I don't know how I'd ever get into this thing. Alright. So, Bondo's like about anything else. And this is, of course, Evercoat. Before you start getting the other thing, mix it up good. Get your paint stick and mix it, mix it, mix it, mix it, mix it. Man, it looks almost like cottage cheese there, don't it? Scrape the sides, get it all off the edges. Get in there and mix. Oh yeah, because it's so easy to mix too, because the shit's like, don't take a whole lot. Alright. I don't have a lot to do here. So I'm going to go just a little more than I need, I think. When you put it on there, I was told basically thin line across the top of it. Maybe just a touch more right there. Yeah. And start mixing. Once it's all a good uniform color and you don't see anymore, scrape it up on there. Start working it in. it starts to form up, it's kind of the end of the road for you. And that is where we're going to stop. I like to leave this a little clean off the edge. Clean the edge, and you can come in there and just break that off once it's hardened. Right now, let that cure up. Get the longboard out, and we'll start sanding it off in just a few. All right, it's a nice little skim coat. Don't have all my good stuff, but yeah, it's a nice little and by the way, when I told you earlier, clean the tip of the edge and then leave a little bit extra on there. Here's why, because a little pop, you don't have the problem with that edge, and everything else cleans right off. There's a couple little spots here and there, but you can knock those off. So that's why. There's a couple high spots right there. That's not a big deal. I mean, once I get all this taken care of, I'll spray that down with a good heavy coat of high build. Hit it with some 80 grit and another coat of high build, and you know, that that'll come right off there. All right, a little finer stuff here. Love it when shit shoots out of my hand like that. A little bit right there. I don't know if you can see that, but that, yeah, a little right there. So a bit of 4K or a 2K primer on this. Put on 2K primer. It's got some rough spots here. Probably have to sand this one time, mix up another batch of 2K and spray it real good and heavy before we'll be ready. This thing should come out looking pretty decent. pretty good. But I'm gonna start sanding this thing, and I'm gonna keep most of my pressure on the center and just let the block do the work. You can guide coat this, but in all honesty. So, got the intake smoothed off. It's all sanded now, good, straight, flat. So I know this is a strange color for a LS, but that's pretty close to what the original paint on this truck would have been. And again, I'm looking for body color on the engine and inside the engine bay with some silver mixed in. But the big thing is, there's the shaved manifold. All painted, looks pretty solid. A few little spots I'll probably have to wet sand and buff that off. You can see this stuff at the back, not great looking, but that's gonna be covered up. Probably should have spent more time on it, but I just need to get this thing painted. But guys, that's what it took. That's about a week's worth of fix this, wait for it to dry, sand, fix, sand, prime, sand, and now it's in paint. Be glad to pull this thing apart once it dries off. See what it really looks like, especially once I start putting the injectors and all that stuff together on it. But so far, I'm digging that. And I know that color, right? It's just not right, but I don't care. That's what I wanted. That's what I got. As always, guys, thanks for subscribing. Hit that like button. Let me know what you think.